Hey, Scott with you here today. Today we're going to bring a video of how to replace a very small but very important piece of a lawnmower. Today we've got a lawnmower that the owner of the lawnmower apparently hit something and did a little bit of damage, and we're going to show you right now what damage we found, and again the very important part that we had to dig into a little bit to get at, but it's got to be done. So here we go. Check it out. So today we're working on this Poulan Pro lawnmower. The guy that owns this lawnmower contacted me and he said the self-propelled mechanism fell out of it. Well, when he told me this over the phone, my first thought was that the mechanism, this is a front wheel drive self-propelled unit, I thought that fell out, and that's not cool. Well, what's going on there? But then when he dropped it off, and it was in some pieces, this is one of the pieces that he gave me. Now this is the blade adapter for underneath. The belt drives on this pulley part, and the star shape on the end here that's been busted out, well, that's what the blade goes on. So that is what he was talking about, fell out. So what I did, we got a new adapter, and we also ended up getting a new blade, because when I went to sharpen the old blade, I noticed it was bent. So we got a new blade, we got a new belt adapter, and then I couldn't get the thing started. And it did show signs of needing a tune-up, oil change. I cleaned the carburetor, I put a new spark plug in it, I changed the oil, and it still won't start. So let me give it a couple of pulls and show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so with everything, like I said, we got fresh gas, fresh oil, fresh spark plug, newly cleaned carburetor and stuff. So we're going to prime it, and then we're going to give it a pull, and we'll see what happens. Alright, we got a little puff. Let's try the other side here. Alright, so that's all I can get out of it with the way it is. And so the evidence says the blade was bent, the blade adapter was broken. I suspect they hit something, and that being the case, and me taking care of everything else I can think of, there's only one thing I can't think of. Well, I mean, the last thing would be flywheel key. So we're going to pop the top of this engine open, and we're going to take a look at what flywheel key looks like. Alright, first thing we're going to do is get this cover off, and it's just held in place by two screws that are Phillips head. So let's get that. Alright, we'll take a closer look here. What we need to do now is we need to get this plastic ring off. That's the gas tank, and that's going to be held in place by 3 5/16 headed bolts. So let's get that taken care of. Alright, now usually you could just pivot this back. There's a bolt down here. Let me get you a closer look. Alright, so over here where the fuel line is connected, way under here is the bolt, and that bolt, you can just pivot the gas tank back in that bolt. Sometimes if your fuel line is not long enough, it would help to pop that off, either off the carburetor or off the fuel tank. Looks like we might have enough play. Alright, and this is another, the oil fill tube here is another 5/16 bolt. We're going to take that one out. And we're just going to lift this a little bit up and then kind of turn it out of the way here. If you want to, you could also just pull it out. But just know that on the bottom of the tube here, that's the dipstick, and there's an O-ring. So you can clean that off before you put it back in the hole. Now we're going to go after 2 bolts on the back and 2 bolts on the front. They're typically 3/8. To do this by hand. My little impact driver just doesn't have enough guts for this. Alright, so with those 4 bolts, this should just lift it straight off. And here we're looking at the flywheel. Now the next thing we have to do is get the flywheel nut off the inside. Alright, so the nut that's on the top here, let's get the schmutz out of there. We're going to be using a 15/16 socket to get that off, and I have a air-powered impact driver here to remove it. Do not use an impact driver to put this back on. Alright, that's all there is to that. We lift this whole cup off of here. Ah, yes. Let's take a closer look. Alright, so if you take a look real close here, right here is the flywheel key, and over here is where it's supposed to be. So this and this are supposed to line up. So that's what happened. They hit something and the flywheel key got sheared. So what's happening is it's sending spark to the spark plug, just not sending spark at the same at the right time. So we're gonna have to pop this flywheel off, and then we're gonna replace that and put it all back together, lined up the way it's supposed to. So at this point in the video, I want to point out that the flywheel key is actually designed to shear or break if you hit something like what happened with this particular lawnmower, because it is a small, inexpensive, replaceable part. If the flywheel key wasn't there and you hit something with a lot of force, it's possible to do some catastrophic damage to the engine. And in this case, though, that flywheel key is the sacrificial part, and it does save the engine from more serious damage. So they are meant to break, and this is one of those cases. So keep watching. Thanks. Alright, there's lots of different ways that this can be done. I'm going to do it kind of the poor man's way. What we're going to do is we're going to take the nut that was on here and we're going to put it back on here. And we're going to put it just so it's flush with the top. And then I got a pry bar and a hammer. And I'm going to get the pry bar someplace where I can gently put some upward pressure. So now with me pushing down on the bar and pushing upward pressure on the flywheel, I'll give this a couple of sharp raps and hopefully it'll come loose. Doing it left-handed, that's not easy for me. Let's switch over. There it is. Okay. And there we go. Here's the pieces of the sheared key. So we'll clean this up. Make sure there's no damage in here. Just clean it all up and put a new key in. And I'm gonna chip that out of there. So here's a closer look. You can see the key has been sheared and half of it is still in the shaft there, and then the other half is right here. So we'll clean this all up, get a new key in there, put the flywheel back in place. Alright, so this is what a new flywheel key looks like. Alright, so the flywheel itself is here, and when the key is sheared, it left a little bit of a ridge in there that's not smooth. So I'm just going to take a round file and carefully knock that ridge down so it doesn't hinder the installation. Alright, I think that should do it. The ridge feels smooth. We have to release the brake right here. It's in our way. So we're just going to take a clamp like this and put it on the handlebar up above to release the brake. There we go. All right, so now that everything's cleaned up and we got the flywheel key here, the new flywheel key, let's line up the groove here and the groove on the flywheel and slip the key in place. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the cup and the nut back on. That'd be the cup and the nut. But here's the thing. We're going to torque this to 55 foot-pounds, which is what the Briggs & Stratton specifications are for this nut. But in order to do that, I'm going to take a C-clamp, like so, and I'm going to put it underneath the edge of the lawnmower so that the blade, when it pushes on the C-clamp, will stop the engine from spinning while I'm trying to tighten this nut. And we do have open oil there, so I'm going to set my torque wrench here to 55 foot-pounds. Right there. Get the socket 15/16. Catching up a little bit there. There we go. The blade just hit the C-clamp. Come on, gotta be getting close. Alright, here we go. Now we got some resistance. There it is. Alright, should be good. Now we get to put it all back together. Alright, well, I'll get this all put back together and then we'll see if it starts. Alright, it's time for the moment of truth. Let's pull on this cord, see if it fires up, see if I put everything back together the way it's supposed to be. she fires up, and its muffler's smoking pretty good over there, because earlier when I changed the oil, I actually spilled oil on the muffler. So we'll let it run for a little bit and burn that off. But anyway, mission accomplished. Thanks for watching.